But you can create these wonderful relationships just by being unapologetically you and letting that other person be the same. And I think that that's really what we're missing right now. We're missing the ability to create this human interaction. And I'm going to take us right back to where you started, talking to people. How in the world would I ever have met the Rainmaker in person? Well, over the internet, had we not reached out, and it's just always this honor for me to be able to have conversations and not just these little anecdotes and mean things that people say on the internet anymore, but be able to talk with people. So how do you take them then from you've got value on LinkedIn, you're helping them understand better how to market themselves, how to sell, even if they're just secretly watching you for those clues. And then you hit them with your fat dog story. I don't know if your moose dog story. I don't want to fat shame your dog, but you got your moose dog. Now, how do you get them on the phone with you?
Well, I kind of
Hey, welcome to Networking Star. I am your host, Jeffery Boyle. And here at Networking Star, I interview some of the most innovative, I'd even say cool people that they're not just innovators, they're people that inspire us and help us want to have, be, and do more in life. And today I'm joined by Jackie Rainforth. She is a global award-winning sales leadership and business growth consultant. That's a mouthful, but it's still super impressive. She's a trainer, she's an international speaker, and she's a LinkedIn top 500 expert and influencer, SSI top 1%. What does that mean? That means that she's done some great stuff on LinkedIn. And so, Jackie, thanks for being on Networking Star.
Thanks for inviting me, Jeffrey. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate it because you told me that you're in the middle of a big move and you'd moved to the lake house and all this kind of stuff. So I'm honored that you would join me here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm truly honored. Truly honored.
Well, you international speaker and being top rated on LinkedIn. So tell me, what does it take to be a top rated LinkedIn SSI? Let me see if I got them all right. What does it take to be all of those glorious things on
Thanks.
LinkedIn?
I started off in sales, right? And that's where it started. That's where it started with sales. But what happened was I wanted to give back. And
Mhm.
giving back meant posting on LinkedIn. And I started this years ago. And every day I would just post a sales tip, a video, something value add for the people that were part of my connection. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And eventually it led into social selling, as technology became bigger and more explosive in our selling world, and that's what it was. And I became, thought leader and influencer because I was constantly giving back and people started following me on LinkedIn. And you start having those relationships, you start creating more of a brand on LinkedIn. And that's what it was. That's basically what it is. It's
So let
about
me get this straight. So you actually provided value, you actually interacted with people,
Mhm.
and you actually started getting business from that?
Yes.
This is me being sarcastic, but that is phenomenal because you look at it on LinkedIn right now, and one of the biggest arguments that for a period it seems like there's been this seesaw battle of the people out there just spamming the heck out of people, and so people were pushing away from LinkedIn. You've got tens of thousands of followers on your LinkedIn, and that's where we met.
Yeah.
And so you've just gone back to good old fashioned value building, and as a result, hey, it's providing you business. That's
Yes.
really cool.
Well, and AI has taken over. Let's
Uh-huh.
let's get realistic. I mean, AI has exploded in the last 12 months, the last year and a half. You've seen a 300% increase in AI. So those are software programs that, I mean, a couple of years ago, I used to hire companies and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get them to generate leads for me. And now you can do it yourself for a fraction of the cost, a couple $100 a month, and you can create these email campaigns. And that's why you're seeing your email box and your LinkedIn exploding with all of these people reaching out, kind of pitching all the time. And, I believe when people are zigging, you zag, move
Mm.
away from it, stay away from it. And people are doing all these email campaigns, and email campaigns work. Let's face it, they do. But you really need to do what the opposite of what everybody else is doing. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. And while everybody else is doing these canned email campaigns, you need to really personalize them. And,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I'm getting tired of all these email, and it's just going delete, 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 delete. It really
Yeah,
is.
and that's the thing, that the biggest argument against it. I'm a huge advocate of AI, and
Mhm.
we sell courses for AI. But the number one thing that we talk to people is, all AI is anymore is a force multiplier. It can force multiply you to be more productive, so you have the time to reach out to people. And I
Mhm.
love that concept of what you're saying. And to me, I think AI really has enabled small business people to be able to do things better, faster, and more efficiently.
Yeah.
But I think that people use it improperly. As you said, they put out these canned things that obviously look like they're written by a machine, rather than understanding how to use AI creatively and turn it into something productive. And maybe that's old school. What you're talking about is actually talking to people. I
Mhm.
love AI, so I can talk to people, so I can have conversations like this. And that's basically what I love about what you're saying is, go back to providing value and start talking to people more frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is about value. 84% of business leaders, like C-suite executive decision makers,
Uh-huh.
are on LinkedIn, and they're watching, and they're making their purchasing decisions based on what they see. So if you're posting your products and services, and little things about your products and services on there, they're watching, they're getting information from there. But to just be pitching, pitching, pitching in these canned speeches, it's just not going to work for you, because they're just going to ignore you, they're going to block you, that's what's happening. And so you've got to be very, very careful when you're using this stuff. Absolutely, you've got to be very, very careful. I mean, they're great for creating lists, getting contact information, but pick up the phone, call them, or do something unique and different. And again, I always believe, I constantly, maybe even harp on, do something that's unique and different. Zig instead of zag. Always.
There's a speech that I heard. It was actually, I think, in 1970. It was I wasn't old
You're
enough
not
to.
even that old. What do you
I
mean
Look, I was
1970?
born in the 70s. I'm a child of the 80s. But the thing is that I watched it on YouTube. It was really cool, and it was this insurance agent owner, so a big broker in New York City, and he was just talking about how cool his front lobby was, and there in New York, and it had TVs, and it had all these technological breakthroughs. And what he said is, he said, people are criticizing us because we're going too much on the technology. But in the end, even with unlimited technology, and that's kind of funny. You think about it, 1975 with unlimited technology, even with all of that, creativity and value add are still what is going to make you successful. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter all the assistance you have, or even if we're going to go back to the 80s, the $6 million man, they're stronger, faster, better, right? That what really sets us apart is our ability to utilize that to be creative. And then, love what you said, pick up the phone and talk.
Mhm.
Email can be misconstrued, a text can be misconstrued, but talking to somebody that can feel your emotion, they can feel you. And I think that's got to be the goal more.
It's all about relationships. It's 80% relationships and building trust with that person,
Yeah.
and that's the key. They need to trust you. They need to know you, like you, and trust you before they're going to buy from you. And that's why word of mouth is so, so important. Referrals are so important these days. That's the number one thing you want to chase, really. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is loaded with recommendations, that your website is loaded with testimonials from people, and that you've got recommendations. I always tease that. Well, I tell this story, and people just look at me, but we needed a dog house sitter, for we were going on holidays,
Yeah.
and this lady comes over. I'd met her through some course I was on. She comes over and first of all, she gets down on the floor and plays with my dogs, gets down on their level, puts her hand out. The dogs sniff her and they loved her right away. One of my dogs is really high anxiety. But she gets up and she says, "Oh, and here you go. This is she opens up my binder. These are my customer referrals. These are my recommendations. This is my training. This is my dog CPR. And, this is a dog sitter." And she's, flipping
It's
through
big
her
bucks though anymore,
credentials.
but dog sitters can make some righteous dough.
I know. And I'm like, this woman has got it. Like,
Mhm.
dog CPR. I didn't even know there was dog CPR, right?
I
And
don't I d I don't know if I
like,
would do dog CPR. I love my dog, but I'm not quite sure I'd know what to do. Even though I'm person CPR certified, I don't know where I would go with that.
exactly. But she did it right.
Wow.
She built trust and rapport right immediately as soon as she walked through the door. And then she built credibility and authority. She showed me how her company, right? And I always go through this. You have to, there's a process, and I'm all about processes.
Right.
Companies and people, regardless of what your business or service is, you have to build, there's a purchasing process that a client goes through.
Uh-huh.
And you have to, you as a person who's selling or your services, you have to build credibility and trust first. Then you have to prove your company has credibility and trust. Then it's your product and service. Then you can talk price. And that's
Mm,
what the trust level process is. If you do those out of order, you are going to lose the sale.
mhm,
And so she did it right. Like, she earned my trust is sitting down with the dog immediately. She earned the dog's trust. Then she goes through and she earned the company trust by saying, "Okay, this is my company and this is, what I have and how they do it and da da da. And here are all the, testimonials and things like that." And, she did it right. Before she even talked about price, I was like in, and in, right?
yeah.
And that's how you do it.
So let me
You
ask you
know,
a question as it relates to that process. Testimonials are huge. Past contacts are even bigger because both of them can add to a lot of business. Talk to that
Mhm,
brand new entrepreneur because there's a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are trying to transition from a job into being an entrepreneur.
mhm.
What advice do you give that person who doesn't have a book of business, who is trying to make the book of business, that is trying to get the testimonials but doesn't have the testimonials?
Use anybody in your past history that you've worked with that knows you,
Mm,
likes you, trusts you, and why they think you're important. And, when I first started, I went to past employees who were now successful
right.
in their own right, right? Like, they are successful salespeople. They talked about my leadership. They talked about, what my personality. They did a video for me.
Mm,
And that in itself, like, go to the people that know you, love you, and trust you in right now, currently, and get them to do something for you. There are people out there that know you, love you, and trust you, and they will speak up for you. Get them to put testimonials for you on your LinkedIn or on your website. Get a book of, I always believe in having a sheet of paper, and every proposal that you put out, you attach your testimonials with that. You want those testimonials everywhere. And the reason being is that when someone does a word of mouth testimonial or referral for you, that that other person that's received it trusts uh, complicitly, and they're
mm.
not going to barter on price because you've transferred the trust from one
That's
person
really
to the
a good idea, actually. You think about it, because even the brand new novice is going to have somebody that loves you. And
other.
as superficial as people are, unless you're trying to go for a six-figure contract or a massive contract, they're not going to look on there and see that that was your former scout leader, your former Sunday school teacher or something like that. They're going to see that, oh my goodness, this young person, has already got some referrals. That is an excellent idea.
Mhm,
Talk a little bit about your process now. The early adopters of some of these different platforms were able to build up an audience faster. For example, one of my business YouTube or business Facebook pages got built up to above 70,000 followers very quickly because of content we posted in the past. But nowadays, you got to work a little bit harder because of all the noise that's out there. explain a little bit of the process that you think a brand new person or even established person, that what they can do to start getting some of the attention that you've gotten on LinkedIn.
Well, again, I think it's quality versus
Mm-hmm.
quantity, and don't get caught up in the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that follow you, you're better off to have one person that loves and adores you and is going to refer you to others
Hopefully it's
than
not
just
just your mom, right? So your mom's always going to love you and adore you. Maybe you can get someone in addition to your mom.
right, right. So don't get, like, you know, someone on YouTube might have 10 billion followers, but they might not be checking in every day. Like, you want
Mm-hmm.
to be the go-to industry expert
Okay.
in your industry, and that's what you're looking for. And maybe you make widgets. You want to be that person in the widget industry. And let me tell you a story. So my brother, and this isn't about entrepreneurship, but it's still a story about how he got started online.
Mm-hmm.
He works for a big company, and he, like many people, did not want to go online because a lot of people are terrified of going online. They don't want to
Yeah.
put themselves out there, and I get it. It's scary, right? And I at first did not want to do it either. But all you have to do is start liking, sharing, commenting. If there's a certain business or certain category of people that you want, start liking, sharing their comment and commenting on their content.
Mm-hmm.
Just get noticed by them. They will notice you. They will notice you. There's certain clients that you're looking for. And and then start posting consistently.
Yeah.
That is the key. If you're going to pick Monday mornings or, you know, Thursday mornings, just do it consistently. You cannot be sporadic. You have to be consistent. And that is the key. So if you're going to do it, commit to it. And, no
So
missing.
with that consistency, so I follow Alex Hermosi, and his meteoric rise has been impressive. So he looks like a lumberjack, but he's got the brain of a Greek philosopher, and sometimes the mouth of a sailor. But the thing is he's a very interesting study with what he's done, and he talks about the consistency and how you go through stages of being able to do it. When do you really start to see a difference, and how long does it take for that difference on LinkedIn? I've seen it on Instagram, for example. Instagram, it took me doing it for more than 12 months of doing it every single day, and then I knocked it up to twice per day, and then all of a sudden, boom, I started getting it. You can say, oh, that happened overnight. No, that took 12, 13 months of doing it. On LinkedIn, what is the process, and what does that consistency mean?
Well, see, I'm unique because salespeople are not going to say, "Oh, I'm watching Jackie for sales
Mm,
tips,"
yeah.
because they don't want anyone to know
Well, they're the most
that they're watching
we are
Jackie.
the most egotistical people on the planet, right? So I can't take
Right.
advice from anybody.
Right. They're not going to say, "Oh, gee, I'm not doing so great at sales. I'm watching Jackie." Right.
Right,
Although I do have a very large business base, they don't engage a lot
right.
because no one wants to kind of confess that they're watching. Right. They're very secretive in what they do. But I would think for anybody, as long as you're providing value and you're mixing it up and you're having fun, you're authentic, you're genuine, and you're real, and you talk about your failures. You're not just your successes. No one wants to hear all about the successes. People want to hear about your failures. I mean, I didn't get where I was today just by being successful all the time. I mean, I've had a ton of failures along the way. People want to talk. They want to hear about real people. They want to hear stories. People remember the stories long after they've heard. I use personal anecdotes. I talk about the failures. I tell stories. I use other people's stories. I use, hey, I was at the store today, and oh, that reminded me of something. Or you wouldn't believe what happened. I talked about the dog story today, right?
Mhm.
The dog babysitter. I mean, you use interesting things and education and vision and storytelling and best practices. Mix it up, have something different every day, and just and make it fun. And one day I picked up, I don't know why I use dogs, but I bought a dog and they told me he was going to be 10 pounds. Well, I pick him up, he's like a little a little tub. He's like 30 pounds. I got ripped off. Don't rip off your customers, right? Like he's like this little moose dog.
Uh,
And, so I use things like that. I talk about that. Some days it's a post, some days it's a statistic, some day it's a video, other days it's, a survey. Mix things up, make things fun and interesting for people, and don't always make it the same. And I think that's the other thing too. My business is a little different than yours. You have different people, you have fun, cool people on, and you do fun things, and and like you say, you have heated conversations, and
I don't think I would say maybe only had heated conversations when I was law school and when I'm a baseball coach. Other than that, my wife puts me in my place pretty quickly if it happens at home. So, but I love to have really great conversations like this, and I think it's with people like you that have this background that you do create just this cool feeling by talking to somebody who's producing value. And I think that's what you're doing. The idea of talking about your fat dog in a business conversation actually makes complete sense. One of my really dear friends that passed away a while ago, he was a mentor. His name was Doug Weed, and he's a presidential historian. He was in Ronald Reagan's cabinet, so he was older and he passed away. He was the most brilliant business guy ever to have on stage because he would talk just story after story, and I just thought, man, I hope these are real because these are fantastic. And he
yeah.
would just take these wonderful stories and everybody would be on the edge of their seat, and then boom, he'd hit him with a business principle. I thought, wow, I've got to get stories like that. But everybody's got stories. It's just a matter of learning how to do that. How do you teach people how to weave in their fat dog into a business story?
Well, I don't know. And I think, but even you, talking about your background, people want to know the person behind the business.
Mm,
That's huge. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss that fact. They think that
yeah.
they need to be business and professional all the time. And I mean, I get criticized because, I don't know, because they think maybe I'm too whatever, but I'm me. And that's who I am. And this is, I'm not corporate all the time, but you know they call me the rainmaker. So some of the photos that I post, sometimes I've got an umbrella with money falling down, and I've had people say, oh, Jackie, the C-suite don't want that. They want someone
Yes,
who's
they do. Yes,
more
they do.
professional, and business owners don't want that. They want to talk to someone who's, and I'm like, this is who I am. Like,
But
take
I
it
think
away.
that you're going to attract, by that personality you have, you're going to attract the type of people that will enjoy that. And I think that that's where just being unapologetically I think that that's the difference with it. And my politics are completely different than a lot of the different people that I talk to. But you can create these wonderful relationships just by being unapologetically you and letting that other person be the same. And I think that that's really what we're missing right now. We're missing the ability to create this human interaction. And I'm going to take us right back to where you started, talking to people. How in the world would I ever have met the Rainmaker in person? Well, over the internet, had we not reached out, and it's just always this honor for me to be able to have conversations and not just these little anecdotes and mean things that people say on the internet anymore, but be able to talk with people. So how do you take them then from you've got value on LinkedIn, you're helping them understand better how to market themselves, how to sell, even if they're just secretly watching you for those clues, and
Mhm.
then you hit them with your fat dog story. I don't know if your moose dog story. I don't want to fat shame your dog,
Call me Fat
but you
Brooke.
you got your moose dog. Now, how do you get them on the phone with you?
Well, it depends. I think you have to have multiple conversations.
Mm,
It's not just one conversation and then hit them up, right? It's multiple conversations, and they're going to watch you for a while, and you're going to see who's liking you, who's
yeah,
commenting, who's engaging, and there's certain things that are going to go on. You're going to every fifth post can be a post where you're actually promoting yourself.
Gotcha.
Where at the bottom of the post, you can actually put something about your business, where you can say, "Hey, um, I do keynotes on business growth or sales or
Mhm.
leadership or whatever," right? You can do that. The other thing too is you've already warmed up by having those conversations. You've created a warm lead. They know who you are, so that when you do phone, you can say, "Hey, it's Jackie calling from LinkedIn. We've had a few conversations online. How are you, Jeffrey?" Right? Listen, I was just phoning to see, do you ever have conventions or conferences where you need a keynote speaker? It's that simple,
Mm.
right? You've already warmed up the lead by talking and kind of even having that interaction online.
You're talking about
But
speeding up by slowing down, and
right,
fast is slow and slow is fast. I guess that's a Navy SEAL type of thing. But what you're talking about is truly creating the foundations, having the patience to be able to interact with people, and in so doing, you've created value, and now you have the ability to call them without offending.
yeah, that's it. It's that simple. But and here's the other thing. The other side of it is that when people do see you and they do see you giving value, giving value, giving value, and they see you online, a lot of times they'll reach out and say, "Hey, I see you. Do you have time, or can you tell me more about your program?" They will reach out to you as well. So that happens.
Well,
And
Jackie Rainmaker, I can see why it is that you are the 1% of all those initials that are on LinkedIn. It just makes sense. Give me the final question I'd have for you is just give me not a question, but give me the best practices of what I should do to make a name for myself on LinkedIn.
okay, in your header, make sure that your header speaks to your customer, what you offer your customer. Make sure that you are reaching out to connections every day. Make sure that your about section is in first person. It's not a resume.
Mm.
And that it talks to your client about what's in it for them, what you're going to do for them, and how you are unique and different.
I like that last one, by
You're,
the way. I like it not being a resume, but what's in it for them.
what's in it for them.
I'm gonna bold that one right there. Highlight, bold, underline, keep going.
Yeah. How your company, and your products and services are unique and different from everybody else. And if you don't know, ask your customers.
Mm.
It's called canning and cloning. They will tell you what makes you unique and different, what makes your company unique and different, and what makes your products unique and different. And then have a call to action at the end,
Love it.
because so often we forget that. And entrepreneurs, and don't be afraid. This is the thing. Entrepreneurs are really good at their business, but they are not so great at selling sometimes.
I like that
And
idea of a call to action in that part of it. I say I'm going to go through and make some notes when we're done with this because
Mhm.
I've gotten to be pretty good at some of the other platforms, but LinkedIn, it's kind of grinding, right? So I'm asking you selfish questions on this, and I hope it's
That's
helping
okay.
other people
No,
because
I hope
I
so.
like
I hope.
that idea of the call to action, and I like that idea of talking to the person rather than just putting a list of accomplishments or a resume. I think
Right.
that's pretty powerful.
Your work experience can be like a resume. Your
Right.
about section, and fill up your featured section. It can be videos, it can be takeaways that the
Right.
client can take, it can be, anything. Make sure your recommendation section is filled with testimonials,
Yeah.
because people check it out. They really do. And you can actually go in there and request that people, you can go, "Hey Tom, can you give me a
Mm.
recommendation? And if you do that for me, I'll do one for you."
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right? um what else can I recommend?
Well,
And
I think even like
both,
that, I
both.
think that just by doing what you suggested, people would
Hmm.
dramatically improve their online presence with LinkedIn. Just that alone. I mean, it's kind of thing that I think if people were to do a real examination of what they have on there, a lot of those fail based on those recommendations. Jackie,
Yeah.
I'm super grateful to have you on here. Please tell people how to find you, the rainmaker, the coach of coaches, the salesperson extraordinaire. How do they find you, Jackie?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn
Wonderful.
under Jackie Rainforth, and I'm on rainmakersgroup.ca. So I'm in
Love it.
Canada. Yeah.
Thank
Uh,
you so much for being. Canadians are always nice, and you have really shown me, other than saying a boot rather than about, this has been.
oh,
I'm kidding you.
right.
I'm kidding you.
Hey, what do you mean? I don't get it.
I really appreciate you being on here. It has been a
Oh, thank
pleasure,
you.
and I think it gives me a task list of things that I need to do, and I can
Oh,
see why
thank
you've
you for the
been, why
support.
you have a lot of followers, and why you're ranked so high on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Talk to you soon.